G'day and welcome to Small Steps Through Life. Today we're in the bush, well a bush, in Bryant, Texas. And having just recorded a podcast, I'd like to relax. And I can think of no better way to relax than a Just for Fun. Particularly since I have no idea how this one will go. So, I can see a puddle. So I'm going to sit beside this puddle below me and share a Just for Fun. One day, there was a puddle in a forest, just like this. Around it was a whole lot of scratch marks from various critters that had come, obviously feeding. There were vines going up, and there was mud close by. And if you came in late at night, you would see critters slipping away. But you'd also see critters clambering down the vines to sip from above. And one day, a little boy went into the forest and did exactly that. He watched. And he saw that the puddle was getting quite empty. And he thought, what could he do? So, what he did was the next day, he got up early. He got his water bottle. And he filled it, and he took it into the forest and poured it into the puddle. Puddle slightly increased. But as he watched, it soaked in, and most of it disappeared, and he thought, it might take more water. And so what he did was he went back home and got more bottles. He put them on a backpack and carried them in and poured them in, and it made it fuller. And it did stay a bit fuller, but this was going to be a big task. So he went home and he got his little radio flyer trolley, and he got all the containers he could find in the house. He filled them all, and then he wheeled it in. He poured each one in, and the puddle got fuller and fuller and fuller. Until finally, the puddle was actually quite a reasonable size. And he went home and he had a bit of a snooze because, well, carrying that much water in was tiring. Later on in the evening, he went out and he sat quietly beside the puddle and he watched as various critters came in. There were raccoons, there were squirrels, there were possums, even birds came in, splash in it and have a bit of a bath and then slip away and then fly off. And he thought, this is pretty good. And he went home, had a great sleep. And he went out and he thought, probably going to need to take more water. And so he did. And he put more water in the puddle. And he topped it up and made it even fuller. And that night he came again. And he sat down. And he watched. And he saw raccoons and squirrels and birds each come to fulfill their thirst. And he went home very happy. He enjoyed seeing them. The next day he got some more water and put it in the puddle. And that night he went out, as well as raccoons and possums and squirrels and birds. He is now starting to see more various critters. He saw a skunk with some baby skunks in tow. He even saw a wildcat. But he was surprised that the wildcat wasn't bugging everything else. It was taking its turn. There wasn't much water, and all the animals seemed to respect one another. He went home, and next day he brought down even more water. The puddle was actually getting quite large by this stage. And he went home and came again in the evening, and he sat hidden beside. And as he watched, the raccoons came up and dropped off some nuts. The squirrels dropped off some nuts. The possums dropped off some leaves. The birds dropped off berries and insects. And pretty soon he had a very big stack of all these goodies that had been left for him. And he was quite perplexed because he thought he was well hidden. And then he realized that he'd been leaving a muddy trail into his hiding place. And they were well aware he was there. But they did appreciate what he was doing. And so he took them all home and showed them to his parents. And they were surprised. They were also surprised because it explained why there were so many containers in for being washed each night. And they kind of smiled and suggested that they'd get him some easier to use containers that didn't need to be washed. And so the next day, what he did, he got some containers and he used them. And he kept doing this right through until the rainy season. And he didn't need to do it again. But each day, different critters would leave him different goodies. He was surprised that one of the goodies was some cookies, and that was from raccoons, who had obviously snuck them from somewhere. And he didn't kind of eat those, because he wasn't really sure where they came from, and so he gave them to some of the baby raccoons, and they liked that. I hope you've enjoyed the story, and on that note, see you later.